Okay, so that more or less concludes the section on generating relaxed power. But most of generating relaxed power is basically about good body mechanics and good body structures. Okay, strength and speed, they're very useful, but body structures and body mechanics are the most important thing. Once you've got good body mechanics and good body structures, it's relatively easy to build speed on that. Starting off with speed, focusing on speed and trying to build good body mechanics on top of that is a lot more difficult. So always go for good body mechanics and good body structures first, and then kind of worry about the speed and building up later. Now, before we move on, there are a few more body structures that I want to talk about just to make things more efficient. They're not quite so directly involved in the generation of relaxed power, but they are still fairly important mechanics to be considered. One of them is simply, when we started, if I take a Kibadachi for example, when we started, the Japanese always used to teach us to push the knees out. Okay, and even in a forward stance, push the knee out. Now, this is not good for your knees. Okay, when we stand normally, your hip joints, your knee joints, your ankles, they're all in a straight line, and that's the correct body mechanics. If I go into a Kibadachi, because this is the easiest example to demonstrate, okay, from where you are, looking from the front, okay, they should still be in a line. Even though my knees are bent, looking from the front, it should still be hip joints, knee joints, ankle joints, they should still be in a line. If I'm pushing the knees out, I'm putting lateral pressure on the knees, and that's not healthy for them. They're not designed to take lateral pressure. They're designed to take all the stress and strain down the middle. That's the way they function best. So this idea that was taught in the early days by Japanese, pushing the knees out, not a good idea. It's not healthy. Okay, and also it's more difficult to move. Now, the other thing about, there's another issue about keeping the joints in alignment. When you look at the way you walk, okay, as we step down, we put the heel down first, everyone knows that. Then we roll forward. As we roll forward, the weight goes onto the big toe, or the base of the big toe. That goes down first, then the little toes go down, basically for balance. Then, of course, we step across, and as we transfer the weight onto the next foot, the first foot pushes off, but people think it pushes off on the ball of the foot. It pushes off more specifically on the base of the big toe. So we're not looking at this whole area all across there, we're looking specifically at this area here. Like I said, at the base of the big toe, on the ball of the foot, but by the big toe, not this side so much. So that is the power, where we generate the power from. So again, I go heel, base of the big toe, then the little toes go down for balance. I step through, and as I push off on the base of the big toe, that way. Not on the whole ball of the foot. If I did it on the whole ball of the foot, my knee would go that way. But if I push off the base of the big toe, then my knee goes that way. Okay? And so you can try it. The toes are at an angle. So if I push off with all the toes, the knee goes that way. And that's, obviously it's not the way you walk. You walk forward. So really we want to put as much natural movement into our martial arts as we can. Okay? If we're making movements unnatural, then it's going to be very difficult to do them under pressure. So when we did it the old way, and they told us to push the knees out, you would end up with pressure on the little toe side of the foot, on the outside of the foot, with the outside of the foot kind of pushing into the floor. If you bring the knees back into alignment, so you've got hip, knee, ankle, all in alignment, then you find the weight comes on the inside of the foot, on the base of the big toe, where it's supposed to be. Okay, that is the more natural body movement. So that's the easiest to demonstrate it and to practice it with a Kibadachi, a horse stance, or side stance, whatever your style calls it, even if you go into a forward stance. Now, again, we used to kind of like be told the olden days, or at the beginning, push the knee outwards, okay? But I say again, even from when looking from the front, those joints should be in alignment. Hip, knee, ankle, they should all be in alignment. I shouldn't be pushing the knee out. That breaks that alignment. That alignment should be there. And then the weight is on the base of the big toe. Also, this back foot here, I don't want to be pushing that outwards. Again, the weight is on the base of the big toe. Okay, so when I move forward, that is where I'm going to push from. I'll do it side on, it might be a little bit easier. That's where I'm going to push from. Base of the big toe. So I step through, okay, and again, as I land, the weight goes on the base of the big toe. It doesn't go on the outside of the foot. It doesn't even kind of distribute around the whole foot. It centers on that base of the big toe because that is a natural power structure. That is a natural power line. And again, just try it, just walking up and down. Just feel where you're pushing off from. Just try it, okay? It's quite an easy experiment to do, and you should find yourself naturally pushing off that base of the big toe. So that is quite an important alignment. As much as being an easier way to move, it's also better for your joints. Trying to push those joints outwards, over time you're going to damage your joints, okay? There's a lot of people who have got, older people who've been doing this for years and years or decades, who have got knee problems, hip problems. Many of the Japanese senior instructors have had knee and hip problems as well. It's something that's not very much talked about, but think about it. If they're teaching you to do it that way and they're having knee problems, then maybe there's a reason for it. So I would say to you, get the correct alignment and bring it in. Another little alignment which I want to talk about, which is often misunderstood. When you start a punch with your hand back here, and okay, yeah, this is basic rather than a freestyle fighting position. You're normally fighting position or for self-defense, your hands would be out there. But looking at basics, the fold of the elbow is uppermost. When we extend the punch and twist on the end, that fold should stay there, uppermost. There is a tendency as people punch to turn the elbow out, so the fold is now on the inside. Now, the elbow joint is simply a hinge. It's not a ball joint, it's a hinge. So from there is pointing uppermost. The elbow joint cannot rotate itself to the outward position. To get that elbow joint turned, I've got to turn the shoulder joint. Okay, so that turn there, that doesn't come from the elbow, that comes from the shoulder. And as I turn the shoulder around, so I stretch my lateral muscle. Now my lateral muscle is one of my muscles that I use for absorbing shock. When you hit something and you've got that counter shock going back down the arm, the lateral muscle is the main one for absorbing it. Not the shoulders, the lateral muscle underneath the arm. So if I turn that shoulder joint around, then I tend to stretch that lateral muscle. It's not quite in such an efficient position. Keeping that down, it's a more efficient position for your lateral muscle to absorb any shock coming back from impact. So you want to keep that fold on the top. I say a lot of people have the fold on the inside. Try and avoid that, have the folds on top. Now, some people will find this difficult because if you've got a fold on top, some people will find that they can't rotate the fist all the way around. Okay, because it is the forearm that rotates. We tend to say rotate the fist, but we're actually rotating the forearm. Now, some people will find that difficult to do. And what I'd say to you, if you can only get it maybe that far, then train that far. Okay, keep on training it. Over time, it'll gradually, be able to sort of sneak around that a little bit further. But rather than thinking about, must get that fist all the way around, that elbow alignment is a little bit more important than that one. Okay, so keep the elbow joint on top. If your fist can't go all the way around, just go as far as you can do, and gradually train it until it will go all the way around. That's the more important alignment because it affects your lateral muscle. Another thing which I think is quite important is the spine is a gentle S shape. Okay, it's a gentle S. It goes forward where your stomach is, and goes back, backwards where your top of the back is. And it's important to try and keep that shape. If we put it back into a C, then we tend to, well, over a period of time, again, that can be bad for the back. So when we're in our stance, if we take a Kibadachi again, just as an example, okay, some people, particularly beginners, tend to go down like that and the back goes into the C shape. Try and keep that natural S shape. Easy way to think about it is basically just stand up with the legs apart, feel where the spine is comfortable, and then keep the spine in that position and just sink. Okay, that works in all the stances. Even if I go into a forward stance, get the back into its comfortable position, just bend the knees, keep it in that comfortable position, and I will be in that gentle S shape. You do want to, as I mentioned earlier on, very gently tuck the buttocks in, very gently tuck the chin in, okay? So we don't want to kind of, overemphasize anything. And that just tends to straighten it out a little bit, but we don't want to straighten it completely, and we certainly don't want to go into a C shape. Okay? Now, one of the worst times for putting the spine in the C shape is when people are stretching. So, if, for example, we're doing these kinds of stretches, lots of people go here, put the head down, and the spines go into the C shape. If you keep your spine straight, keep your head up, keep the spine straight, then you get just as much of a stretch. In fact, it's just as good, but you don't kind of put your back into a damaging position. So keep that natural S shape, keep your head up, you can still stretch. It's a hamstrings that you're stretching, you're not looking to stretch your spine. That may look a little bit better in front of your classmates, may look better than that, but this one, with the back bits in its more natural shape, that's safer for your back, and you get just as good a stretch. Okay, I've talked quite a bit about body structures and body mechanics. I just want to emphasize this point a little bit. If I can borrow Paul again, please. Okay, turn around, please. The Kazamazuki one. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to ask Paul just to lean back against my fist. Okay, now, I'm just putting myself in the, what we call Kazamazuki in karate, or extended punch. Okay, Paul is putting all his weight against it. Now, if I'm using the correct alignment, my arm is quite relaxed because my arm is straight. So his weight is going straight from my fist, straight up into my shoulder. Now, we talked earlier on about the position of the elbow joint upwards. That locks the lateral muscle down. So that body weight is going directly into my shoulder, which is kind of anchored by my lateral muscle. That puts it into my torso. I'm engaged in the core muscle so I can support the weight. And then it's just going straight down my back leg into the floor. So his weight is supported directly from the floor through a good structure. If I turn my shoulder in, it suddenly starts getting very heavy and I've got to use a lot of muscular strength to keep it there. If I bend my elbow, again I've got to use a lot of strength to keep it there. But if I just get a structure in place, I can relax. Okay, it's quite easy to keep it there. I can even kind of like lift that foot off the floor a little bit. So just by having the correct structure from the point of what would be the point of impact down to the floor, I can absorb his weight quite easily. Okay, thank you, Paul. Now, if you think in terms of maybe somebody running in at me, okay, so someone's running in at me and I just stick that out. Now, if I can support their weight, then when they're running in at me, it's going to be like them running onto a post. And that's what you're looking for. If you've got that structure, they feel like they're running onto a post. You don't have to be big and powerful and super strong. I mean, okay, yeah, being big and powerful helps. Nothing against being big and strong. But you don't have to rely on it if you can rely on good structure. So like I say, good structure, it'll be like them running onto a post. I can support his weight easy, so when somebody's running in, that will stop them dead easy. If I'm relying on strength and I've got bad structure, then that's going to collapse when I hit something. So again, structure is everything. Structure and body mechanics, they are the most important things. Get them right, practice them slowly at first until you've got them right, and then build up the speed. Don't worry about speed first and then body mechanics. Get body mechanics first, then speed.